The crack of a gunshot echoed through the dusty streets of Silver Creek as Lillian Foster ducked behind a water trough, her heart hammering against her ribs like a wild Mustang. It was 1876, and the West was no place for a woman alone, especially one who just witnessed a murder. Lillian had come to Colorado Territory 6 months prior, leaving behind the suffocating confines of Boston society. After her parents' passing left her with nothing but debts and painful memories. At 22, she'd hoped to build a new life teaching in this frontier town, not hiding from a killer who'd seen her face. "Miss Foster!" a deep voice called out, causing her to nearly jump out of her skin. She peered over the edge of the trough to see Adam Ironwood, a local rancher known for his quiet demeanor and steady hand, crouched nearby, his revolver drawn. "Stay down!" Another bullet whizzed past, splintering the wooden post above Adam's head. His face, usually sun-bronzed and calm beneath his worn Stetson, was taut with tension as his eyes scanned the street. "Looks like Butch Kendall spotted you at the bank," Adam said, his voice barely audible over the commotion spreading through town. "You weren't supposed to be there when he made his withdrawal." "Withdrawal?" Lillian whispered incredulously, her gloved hands trembling. "He shot the teller in cold blood. I was just depositing my teaching wages." Adam nodded grimly. "Kendall's been terrorizing towns across the territory. No witnesses left behind is his motto." A movement across the street caught Lillian's eye. One of Kendall's men was circling around the general store. Without thinking, she grabbed Adam's arm. "There! By Mr. Peterson's store!" Adam pivoted and fired in one fluid motion. The outlaw yelped and ducked back, clutching his shoulder. "Good eyes," Adam muttered, sparing her a glance that contained something more than mere approval. "What do we do now?" Lillian asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the fear threatening to choke her. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Adam replied, checking his ammunition. "Kendall won't stop until he's sure you can't testify. The sheriff's out of town until tomorrow, and his deputy—" He trailed off, glancing toward the young deputy who was clearly overwhelmed, shouting ineffectively at townspeople to get inside. "My boarding house is just down that alley," Lillian offered. Adam shook his head. "First place they'll look. My ranch is about 5 miles outside town. We need to make a run for the livery." Another volley of shots rang out from the direction of the bank. Adam grabbed Lillian's hand. "Now! Stay low!" They sprinted across the street, Lillian's skirts hampering her movements. She silently cursed the impractical fashion as a bullet kicked up dirt near her boots. Adam pulled her behind the blacksmith shop, where 2 horses were already tethered. "Maverick's mine," he said, indicating a powerful bay stallion. "Take Lightning, she's faster than she looks." Lillian stared at the Palomino mare in dismay. "I can't ride astride in these skirts." "No time for propriety, Miss Foster," Adam said, already mounting his horse. His eyes, the color of a summer storm, met hers with unexpected gentleness. "I promise not to look." Despite everything, Lillian felt heat rise to her cheeks as she gathered her skirts and, with Adam's help, mounted the horse. She'd ridden in Boston's parks, but always side saddle, always proper. "Hold tight," Adam instructed, passing her the reins. "Lightning knows the way if we get separated." They thundered out of town, taking a winding route through scrubby terrain rather than the main road. Lillian clung to the saddle horn, her body protesting every bounce and jolt. Behind them, shouts and more gunfire suggested Kendall and his men had discovered their escape. "They're following!" she called to Adam, glancing over her shoulder at the dust cloud rising in the distance. "Just keep riding!" he shouted back, guiding Maverick over a shallow creek. "We'll lose them in the canyon." For nearly an hour they rode, the landscape changing from open plains to rocky outcroppings. Lillian's thighs burned, and her fingers were cramped from gripping the reins, but fear drove her forward. When they finally emerged from a narrow pass, she saw a modest ranch house nestled against a backdrop of ponderosa pines. "Almost there," Adam called, slowing his horse slightly. "My foreman and hands will be out with the herd, but we'll be safe here." The ranch was simple but well kept, with a main house, barn, bunkhouse, and corrals spread across a clearing. As they approached, Adam whistled sharply, and a dog came bounding from the direction of the barn, a large, shaggy beast that looked more wolf than domestic companion. "That's Ranger," Adam explained as they dismounted in front of the house. "Best alarm system in Colorado Territory." Lillian stumbled as her feet touched the ground, her legs nearly buckling. Adam caught her elbow, steadying her with a gentle but firm hand. "Thank you," she murmured, suddenly aware of how close he stood. Close enough that she could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, weathered by sun and wind. Close enough to notice the faint scar that traced his jawline beneath several days' worth of stubble. He cleared his throat and stepped back. "Let's get inside. I'll have to go back out to check the perimeter, make sure we weren't followed." The interior of the ranch house surprised Lillian. It was neat and comfortable, with solid furniture and bookshelves lining one wall, not the Spartan bachelor quarters she'd expected. Adam moved around with efficiency, checking windows and loading a shotgun that he placed near the door. "My mother believed a house should be a home, no matter how far from civilization," he explained, catching her admiring glance at a hand-quilted throw draped over a rocking chair. "She passed 5 years ago, but I've kept things as she left them." "It's lovely," Lillian said sincerely, thinking of the stark boarding house room that held her few possessions. Adam nodded toward a hallway. "There's a spare room you can use. I'll bring in some water so you can wash up. Are you hungry?" Only then did Lillian realize she was famished. "Yes, though I don't want to be a burden." A hint of a smile touched Adam's lips. "Miss Foster, you may be many things, but a burden isn't one of them. Not many ladies I know would have kept their wits about them with Butch Kendall shooting up the town." The compliment warmed her, though she brushed it aside. "I was terrified. Still am, if I'm being honest." "Fear keeps you alive," Adam said matter-of-factly. "It's when you don't feel it that you're in real trouble." After showing her to a small but clean bedroom, Adam brought water for washing and left her to refresh herself. Lillian removed her dusty jacket and did her best to tidy her appearance, though her hair had come loose from its pins during the wild ride. She found herself wondering what Adam thought of her. This schoolteacher who'd stumbled into his life trailing danger behind her. When she emerged, she found him in the kitchen, heating up a pot of stew. He'd removed his coat and gun belt, though she noticed the revolver remained within easy reach on the counter. "I need to check the property," he said, handing her a steaming bowl. "Eat, rest if you can. Lock the door behind me. If you hear Ranger bark, grab that shotgun by the door and be ready." "Will Kendall really come all this way for one witness?" Lillian asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Adam's expression darkened. "Kendall's wanted in 3 territories. You're the first person who's seen him clearly enough to identify him in a year. So, yes, he'll come." After he left, Lillian ate the surprisingly flavorful stew, her mind racing with the day's events. The horrified expression on the bank teller's face as the bullet struck him. The cold, calculating eyes of Butch Kendall as he swept the money into a sack. And now, the unexpected sanctuary offered by a man she barely knew, yet who was risking his life to protect her. She was rinsing her bowl when she heard hoofbeats approaching. Freezing in place, she listened intently. Ranger wasn't barking, which she hoped was a good sign. Sure enough, moments later, Adam's voice called out, "It's just me, Miss Foster." When she opened the door, she was startled to see him leading another horse laden with supplies. "I stopped at my line cabin on the north pasture," he explained, unloading parcels. "Figured we might need extra provisions if we're in for a siege." "A siege?" Lillian echoed, her heart sinking. Adam's expression was grim as he carried the supplies inside. "Found fresh tracks about 2 miles back. At least 3 riders coming from the direction of town. They're being careful, taking their time, but they're definitely tracking us." Lillian sank into a chair, her momentary sense of safety evaporating. "This is my fault. I should never have gone to the bank today. And I should have been faster drawing on Kendall when he first rode into town last week," Adam countered, storing ammunition in a cabinet. "Doesn't matter now. What matters is keeping you alive until the marshal can get here." "The marshal?" Adam nodded. "Sent one of my ranch hands to telegraph the federal marshal in Denver before I came to town this morning. Had a feeling Kendall wasn't just passing through. Marshal should be here within 2 days." "2 days," Lillian repeated faintly. "Can we hold out that long?" Adam paused in his work, regarding her steadily. "Miss Foster, I've defended this land against rustlers, renegades, and a particularly determined grizzly bear. Butch Kendall may fancy himself the terror of the territories, but he's just another man with a gun." He checked his pocket watch. "It'll be dark soon. We should prepare." The next few hours were spent in tense preparation. Adam showed Lillian how to reload the shotgun and where to position herself if shooting started. He moved furniture to create defensive positions and filled every available container with water. As night fell, he lit only a single lantern, keeping it low. "We should take turns keeping watch," Lillian suggested, sitting at the kitchen table where she could see the front approach to the house. Adam raised an eyebrow. "No offense intended, but have you ever fired that shotgun before today?" "No," she admitted. "But I can wake you if I see or hear anything." He considered this, then nodded. "Fair enough. I'll take first watch, though. Try to get some rest." Despite her exhaustion, sleep eluded Lillian. Every creak of the house, every whisper of wind sounded like approaching danger. After tossing restlessly for an hour, she rose and returned to the main room where Adam sat by the window, his profile silhouetted against the faint moonlight. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked without turning. "No," she admitted, wrapping her arms around herself. "Too many thoughts." He motioned to the chair opposite his. "Might as well keep me company then." Lillian sat, studying him in the dim light. In the stillness of the night, with danger lurking outside, it seemed natural to speak of things normally left unsaid. "Have you lived here long?" she asked. "All my life," Adam replied. "My father claimed this land when it was still mostly Indian territory, made peace with the local tribes, built this place from nothing." Pride colored his voice. "He was a good man. And now it's yours. And my brother's, though he's back east, studying law at Harvard. Says there's no future in ranching." Adam's tone suggested he disagreed. "What brought you to Silver Creek?" he asked after a moment. Lillian traced a pattern on the wooden table. "Necessity. My father invested poorly, then died of pneumonia last winter. My mother followed within a month. The doctors called it heart failure, but I think it was grief. The creditors took everything except my mother's jewelry and my books." "I'm sorry," Adam said simply. "The school board in Silver Creek was desperate enough for a teacher that they didn't mind my lack of experience," Lillian continued. 6 months, and I was just starting to feel like I belonged." "You still belong," Adam said firmly. "Kendall's the outsider here." A comfortable silence fell between them. Outside, an owl hooted, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to its pack. "It's beautiful here," Lillian observed. "So different from Boston." "Takes some getting used to," Adam acknowledged. "The space, the silence. Some folks find it lonely." "Do you? Find it lonely?" He considered the question. "Sometimes, but there's a difference between being alone and being lonely." His eyes met hers. "What about you, Miss Foster? Do you get lonely in Silver Creek?" "Lillian," she corrected gently. "And yes, sometimes. Teaching fills my days, but the evenings stretch long sometimes." Adam smiled slightly. "Lillian," he repeated as if testing the name. "I'm Adam, in case formality seems a bit much under the circumstances." A sudden series of barks from Ranger shattered the moment. Adam was on his feet instantly, gun in hand. "Back room," he ordered, all traces of their easy conversation gone. "Stay low, away from the windows." Heart pounding, Lillian hurried to the rear bedroom, grabbing the shotgun on her way. She positioned herself beside the window, where she could see the moonlit yard but remain hidden from view. The barking continued, more urgent now, coming from the direction of the barn. Adam moved silently through the house, checking each window before disappearing through the back door. Lillian watched, barely breathing. As his shadow moved across the yard toward the source of the disturbance, then, a flash of light, a gunshot followed by several more in rapid succession. Rangers' barks turned to snarling, and men's shouts echoed through the night. Lillian's hands tightened on the shotgun as she counted the shots, trying to determine how many attackers there might be. A cry of pain, Adam's voice sent ice through her veins. Without thinking, Lillian threw open the window and fired the shotgun in the direction of the barn, the recoil nearly knocking her backward. The thunderous blast lit up the night briefly, revealing 2 figures near the barn door and another on the ground. "Adam!" she called out, frantically reloading as she'd been shown. There was no answer, but more gunfire erupted this time from inside the barn. Lillian fired again, aiming high to avoid hitting Adam if he was still in the line of fire. The front door of the house suddenly splintered inward. Lillian whirled to see a massive shape filling the doorway, a man with a bushy beard and a gleaming knife. "There you are, little schoolteacher," he growled, advancing into the room. Lillian swung the shotgun toward him, but he was faster than his size suggested. He knocked the weapon from her hands, sending it clattering across the floor. "Kendall wants you alive," the man said, grabbing for her arm. "Said I could have some fun first, though." Revulsion and terror propelled Lillian backward. She seized a heavy oil lamp from the table and hurled it at his head. Glass shattered, oil sprayed, and flames erupted almost instantly as the man howled, batting at his burning clothes. Lillian darted around him, making for the front door, but another figure appeared smaller, wiry, with a pockmarked face. "Ain't you a spirited one?" he laughed, reaching for her. Behind him, through the open door, Lillian saw movement, a large shape bounding across the yard. Ranger burst through the doorway, a snarling mass of fur and teeth that hit the outlaw with the force of a locomotive, driving him to the floor. Lillian didn't wait to see more. She scrambled for the shotgun, grabbed it, and ran for the back door. The first outlaw was still thrashing, setting fire to the furniture as he tried to extinguish his burning clothes. "Adam!" she screamed as she burst into the night air. "Here!" His voice came from near the barn, strained but alive. Lillian raced toward the sound, the shotgun clutched in her trembling hands. She found Adam propped against the barn wall, one hand pressed to his side, where dark blood stained his shirt. "There's a fire!" she gasped. "The house—" "Kendall," Adam interrupted, struggling to stand. "Two men," Lillian answered. "One's burning, the other ranger attacked him." "Good dog," Adam muttered, grimacing as he pushed himself upright. "But there were three men. Where's—" A cold voice cut through the night. "Right here, Ironwood." Butch Kendall stepped from the shadows of the barn, his revolver trained steadily on them. He was a lean man with cold eyes and a knife-thin scar bisecting his left cheek. "Should have minded your own business," Kendall said conversationally. "All I wanted was the girl. Now I've got to kill you too." "The marshal's already on his way," Adam said, his voice remarkably steady despite his wound. "Kill us, and every lawman in the territory will be hunting you." Kendall shrugged. "They already are. Makes no difference to me." "Let her go," Adam said. "She's just a schoolteacher." "A schoolteacher who saw my face," Kendall replied. "Can't have that." He shifted his aim toward Lillian. "Ladies first, I always say." Several things happened simultaneously. Adam lunged forward, shoving Lillian aside. The crack of Kendall's revolver split the night, and Lillian, falling but still clutching the shotgun, pulled both triggers. The blast caught Kendall squarely in the chest, lifting him off his feet and throwing him backward into the barn wall. He slid down, a look of stunned surprise frozen on his face. "Adam!" Lillian scrambled to where he had fallen. Blood bloomed across his shirt. Too much blood. "Nice. Shot," he managed, his face ashen in the moonlight. "Don't speak," she ordered, tearing at her petticoat to create bandages. "We need to stop the bleeding." Behind them, flames were beginning to consume the house. The crackle of the fire mingled with the pained whines of Ranger, who limped toward them, muzzle bloody. "Good boy," Adam whispered, reaching a shaky hand toward the dog. "Horses," he added, gesturing weakly toward the corral. "Need to get them out." "The horses can wait," Lillian insisted, pressing fabric against his wounds. "We need to get you to a doctor." Adam's eyes, clouded with pain, focused on her face. "Town's too far. Line cabin, north pasture. Medical supplies there." It took all of Lillian's strength to help Adam onto Maverick. She mounted behind him, supporting his weight as they rode away from the burning ranch house. Ranger followed, limping but determined to stay with his master. The line cabin was a small, sturdy structure tucked into a stand of pines near a creek. By the time they reached it, Adam was barely conscious, his breathing shallow, his skin clammy with shock. Inside, Lillian found a primitive but clean space, a bed, table, stove, and shelves stocked with supplies. She managed to get Adam onto the bed and cut away his blood-soaked shirt. 2 wounds marred his torso. A bullet grazed along his ribs that had bled profusely but wasn't deep, and a more serious wound where a bullet had torn through the flesh of his upper arm. Working by lamplight, Lillian cleaned and bandaged both wounds, using the medical supplies Adam had mentioned. Her hands trembled, but her mind remained clear, focused on the task. She had assisted the school nurse in Boston often enough to know the basics of wound care. When she had done all she could, she built up the fire in the small stove and boiled water for coffee, knowing the night ahead would be long. Ranger settled by the bed, his intelligent eyes never leaving his master's face. As midnight passed, Adam's fever rose. He thrashed on the narrow bed, muttering incoherently. Lillian bathed his face with cool water from the creek, speaking softly to calm him. "Stay with me, Adam," she urged, taking his hand in hers. "I can't lose you too." The words surprised her even as she spoke them. In the space of a day, this man had become important to her in ways she couldn't fully understand. Perhaps it was the shared danger, or his unwavering courage in protecting her. Perhaps it was something more, something that had been there in those quiet moments of conversation before the attack. Through the long night, Lillian tended to him, changing bandages when blood seeped through, coaxing water between his parched lips. His fever peaked near dawn, leaving him shivering despite the blankets piled upon him. "Cold," he murmured, his first coherent word in hours. Without hesitation, Lillian climbed onto the bed beside him, adding her warmth to the blankets. She held him as his shivering gradually subsided, whispering reassurances, praying to a God she'd been uncertain of since her parents' deaths. As the first gray light of dawn filtered through the cabin's single window, Adam's fever broke. His breathing eased, and he fell into a natural sleep rather than the fevered unconsciousness of before. Lillian, exhausted beyond measure, allowed herself to close her eyes, still nestled against him. She woke to the sensation of being watched. Opening her eyes, she found Adam awake, his gaze on her face, an unreadable expression in his eyes. "Good morning," she said softly, suddenly aware of their proximity. She made to move away, but his good arm tightened slightly around her. "Stay," he said simply. "Please." Lillian settled back, feeling a curious mix of embarrassment and comfort. "How do you feel?" "Like I've been shot," he replied, a hint of his dry humor returning. "But alive, thanks to you." "I should be thanking you," Lillian countered. "You saved my life. Twice." "Seems we're even then. That shotgun blast of yours took care of Kendall." The memory of the outlaw's body hitting the barn wall flashed through Lillian's mind. She had killed a man. The realization should have horrified her, but all she felt was a distant relief that the threat was gone. "The house," she began. "Can be rebuilt," Adam finished. "What matters is that we're both here." Their eyes met, and something passed between them, an understanding, a recognition of shared survival, of bonds forged in fire and danger. "Your ranch hands," Lillian said suddenly. "Won't they return and find the house burned?" Adam nodded slightly. "They should be back from the North Range today. Jake, my foreman, will check the line cabins when he sees what happened." "Should I make coffee?" Lillian asked, uncertain of the protocol for mourning after near-death experiences. A smile touched Adam's lips. "That would be nice." As Lillian busied herself with the coffee pot, Adam watched her, his thoughts in turmoil. He had known this woman for barely a day, yet he felt connected to her in ways that defied explanation. He had seen her courage under fire, her steadiness in crisis, her compassion in tending his wounds. "What happens now?" Lillian asked, handing him a steaming cup. "When your men find us?" "They'll take us back to town," Adam replied. "The marshal should be there by now. You'll need to tell him what happened." "And after that?" Her voice held a note of uncertainty that tugged at something deep within him. "That depends," Adam said carefully, "on what you want." Before Lillian could answer, Ranger's ears perked up. A moment later, they both heard the sound of approaching horses. Adam reached for his gun, but Lillian placed a restraining hand on his arm. "Ranger's not alarmed," she pointed out. "It must be your men." Sure enough. Moments later, a deep voice called out. "Boss, you in there?" "Come in, Jake," Adam called back. The door opened to reveal a weather-beaten man in his 50s, flanked by two younger cowboys. Their expressions shifted from concern to relief as they took in the scene. "Thank the Lord," Jake said, removing his hat. "Found the house burned to the ground. Kendall and his boys dead. Feared the worst." "Nearly was the worst," Adam acknowledged. "Miss Foster saved my life." Jake turned to Lillian with newfound respect. "Madam, the boys and I are mighty grateful to you then. Boss here is the best man I know." Lillian felt her cheeks warm. He saved me first, she said simply. One of the younger cowboys cleared his throat. Marshal Taylor arrived in town yesterday. He's got a posse out looking for Kendall. They can stop looking, Adam said grimly. Miss Foster made sure Kendall won't trouble anyone ever again. The men exchanged impressed glances. Jake nodded decisively. We'll get a wagon ready. Need to get the boss to Doc Peterson. Despite Adam's protests, the cowboys insisted on constructing a makeshift stretcher to carry him to the wagon they had brought. Lillian gathered their few belongings, including the shotgun that had saved their lives. The journey back to Silver Creek was slow and jarring, with Lillian riding beside the wagon, constantly checking on Adam. His color had improved, but pain lined his face with each bump in the rough trail. Word of their arrival spread quickly through town. By the time they reached the doctor's house, a small crowd had gathered. Marshal Taylor, a stern-faced man with iron-gray hair, was waiting on the porch. Ironwood, he acknowledged as Adam was carried inside. Heard you had a run-in with Kendall. Miss Foster did more than run in, Adam replied, nodding toward Lillian. She put an end to him. The marshal's eyebrows rose as he took in the petite schoolteacher. Is that so? I'd like to hear that story, madam, when the doctor's done patching up your friend. Inside, Dr. Peterson examined Adam's wounds, commending Lillian's treatment. Couldn't have done much better myself, under the circumstances, he told her. Clean, professional work. He'll need rest and careful watching for infection, but he should make a full recovery. While Adam rested, Lillian gave her statement to Marshal Taylor, describing the bank robbery, their flight to the ranch, and the final confrontation with Kendall and his men. That's quite a tale, the marshal said when she'd finished. Butch Kendall's been terrorizing these parts for 2 years. There's a $1,000 reward for his capture, you know? Lillian blinked in surprise. Reward? Dead or alive, the marshal confirmed. I'll see that it's processed. Might take a few weeks for the money to arrive. The news left Lillian stunned. $1,000 was a fortune enough to rebuild her life, to have security she hadn't known since before her parents' deaths. When she was finally allowed to see Adam again, she found him propped up in the doctor's spare room, looking pale but alert. The marshal says there's a reward for Kendall, she told him, settling into the chair beside his bed. Adam nodded. Good. You deserve it after what you've been through. I was thinking, Lillian said hesitantly, that the reward should be split. Without you, I wouldn't have survived long enough to face Kendall. Keep it, Adam said firmly. You need it more than I do. Besides, I still have my land, even if the house is gone. You'll rebuild? Lillian asked, already knowing the answer. Of course. That land has been in my family for 2 generations. It'll take more than Butch Kendall to drive me from it. Lillian smiled, admiring his determination. The doctor says you need someone to look after you while you recover. Is that an offer, Miss Foster? Adam asked, a new warmth in his eyes. Lillian, she corrected gently. And yes, if you'll have me. The school board has already given me leave for the rest of the term after hearing what happened. I'd be honored, Adam said simply. Though I should warn you, I make a terrible patient. I suspected as much, Lillian replied with a small laugh. But I'm a schoolteacher. I'm accustomed to managing difficult cases. Over the following weeks, as spring blossomed across the Colorado foothills, Lillian divided her time between the small room she'd rented in town and Adam's bedside. As his strength returned, they spent hours in conversation, discovering shared interests in books and ideas, debating everything from politics to poetry. Adam's ranch hands had salvaged what they could from the burned house and begun clearing the site for rebuilding. Each day Lillian brought news of the progress, along with fresh baked bread from the town baker or wildflowers gathered on her ride out. Jake says the new foundation is laid, she reported one sunny afternoon in May, arranging columbines in a jar by Adam's bedside. They're framing the walls next week. I should be there, Adam said, the frustration of convalescence evident in his voice. A man should build his own home. You will, Lillian assured him, sitting beside him on the bed. But the doctor says another week of rest before you can ride. Adam captured her hand in his. Would you come with me when I go back to the ranch? Lillian's heart quickened at the earnestness in his gaze. To help you settle in? To stay, Adam clarified, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Lillian, These past weeks, he paused, struggling for words. I know it hasn't been long, by conventional standards, but I think we've lived more in these weeks than some folks do in years. Adam, Lillian began, uncertain what to say, though her heart was racing with hope. I'm not asking for promises, he continued hurriedly. Just a chance to court you properly, to see if what I feel, what I hope you might feel too, could grow into something lasting. Lillian looked into his eyes, remembering the terror of that night, the comfort of his presence despite their danger, the long vigil by his bed as he fought fever and pain. Yes, she said simply, I would like that very much. The smile that lit his face was worth all the danger they had survived. Gently, mindful of his healing wounds, Adam drew her closer. Their first kiss was tentative, sweet with promise and new beginnings. When the doctor finally pronounced Adam fit to return to his ranch, the entire town seemed to turn out to see them off. The reward money had arrived, and Lillian had used a portion to purchase supplies for the new house curtain fabric, kitchenware, and books to fill the shelves Adam had insisted on including in the plans. The ride to the ranch was filled with anticipation. As they crested the final rise, Lillian gasped at the sight below. Where charred ruins had been, a new house now stood larger than the original, with a wide porch wrapping around three sides and windows gleaming in the afternoon sun. It's beautiful, she breathed. Wait until you see inside, Adam replied, a hint of nervousness in his voice. The ranch hands had outdone themselves. The main room was spacious and welcoming, with a stone fireplace dominating one wall. The kitchen was equipped with a new cast-iron stove and ample workspace. Upstairs, several bedrooms waited to be furnished. This one's for you, Adam said, showing her a sunny room with windows facing east. Until you decide if you want a more permanent arrangement. Lillian turned to him, touched by his consideration. It's perfect, Adam. All of it. That evening, after a celebratory dinner with the ranch hands, Lillian and Adam sat on the new porch, watching the sunset paint the western sky in brilliant oranges and purples. Ranger lay at their feet, his loyalty undimmed by the new scars he carried from the fight. I never thought I'd find peace again after my parents died, Lillian admitted, leaning against Adam's shoulder. Certainly never expected to find it after shooting a man. Adam's arm tightened around her. Life out here has a way of surprising you, he said. Testing you, breaking you sometimes, but if you survive, you come out stronger. Like those wildflowers that grow in the rocky places, Lillian observed, blooming where you'd least expect beauty to thrive. Exactly like that, Adam agreed, pressing a kiss to her hair. Summer passed in a haze of work and tentative courtship. Lillian proved herself adept at ranch life, learning to ride properly, to tend the kitchen garden, even to help with calving when needed. The new house became a home under her touch, filled with books and music and the scent of fresh-baked bread. Adam, for his part, courted her with an old-fashioned gentleness that charmed her, riding out to collect wildflowers for her table, reading poetry by lamplight in the evenings, teaching her to dance in the privacy of their front room. By August, when the wildflowers carpeted the high meadows in a riot of color, Adam asked Lillian to ride with him to his favorite spot on the property. They picnicked beside a clear mountain stream, watching eagles soar above the distant peaks. I've been thinking, Adam said as they lingered over coffee, about the future. What about it? Lillian asked, noting the serious set of his jaw. My brother writes that he's finished his law studies. He's decided to set up practice in Denver rather than return east. That's wonderful, Lillian said. You must be pleased to have him closer. I am, Adam agreed. But it's made me think about my own choices, my own future. He reached for her hand. Lillian, these past months have been the happiest of my life. I know it hasn't been long, but I've never been more certain of anything. Lillian's heart beat faster as Adam shifted to one knee before her, still holding her hand in his. I love you, he said simply. Your courage, your kindness, your strength. I love the way you've embraced this life, this land that means so much to me. I want to build a future with you, if you'll have me. Tears blurred Lillian's vision as she looked at this man who had become the center of her world. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will marry you, Adam Ironwood. Their wedding, held in the Silver Creek Church in October, was a town celebration. Lillian wore a gown of ivory silk, ordered from Denver with part of her reward money. Adam, resplendent in a new black suit, couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked down the aisle on Jake's arm, the old foreman having proudly agreed to give her away. "Never thought I'd see the boss looking so happy," one of the younger cowboys commented at the reception. "Reckon it took getting shot to knock some sense into him." "Reckon it took the right woman," Jake corrected, raising his glass in a toast to the couple. As winter settled over the ranch, bringing snow-draped pines and cozy evenings by the fire, Adam and Lillian settled into married life with a contentment that neither had expected to find. The nightmares that had plagued them both after the confrontation with Kendall gradually faded, replaced by dreams of the future they would build together. Lillian had agreed to return to teaching the following autumn, riding to town 3 days a week to share her love of learning with Silver Creek's children. Adam continued building his ranch, adding to his herd and his land holdings, with an eye toward the legacy they might one day leave to children of their own. That spring, as the first anniversary of their encounter with Kendall approached, Adam found Lillian standing on the porch, gazing toward the spot where the old house had burned. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, slipping his arms around her waist. Lillian leaned back against him, drawing comfort from his solid presence. "I was thinking about that night, how close we came to losing everything before we'd even found it." Adam nodded against her hair. "I still remember waking in that line cabin, seeing you there beside me. Your eyes were red from fear and lack of sleep, but you'd stayed beside me all night, keeping me alive through sheer determination. I couldn't bear the thought of losing you," Lillian admitted, "even then, when I barely knew you." "Sometimes the heart knows what the mind hasn't figured out yet," Adam said, turning her in his arms to face him. "I'm grateful every day that you had the courage to follow yours." As the sun rose higher, painting the ranch in golden morning light, Lillian smiled up at her husband. "So am I." They stood together, watching their land bloom with spring's promise, two people who had found in each other not just love, but a courage and strength they hadn't known they possessed, forged in fire, tested by danger, and destined to endure through whatever challenges the frontier might yet bring. In the distance, a meadowlark called to its mate, and closer by, Ranger barked joyfully as he chased rabbits through the new grass. Life on the Colorado frontier was never easy, but with love as their foundation, Adam and Lillian Ironwood faced each dawn with hope and each challenge with the certainty that together they could overcome anything, even the darkness that had once threatened to extinguish their chance at happiness before it had truly begun. 2 years later, on a crisp autumn morning, Adam paced nervously outside their bedroom door, while inside, Dr. Peterson attended Lillian through the final stages of labor. After 15 hours, her cries had grown weaker, and Adam's fear had risen with each passing moment. "Shouldn't be much longer now," Jake said, bringing Adam a cup of coffee. The old foreman had become like family, his gruff exterior hiding a deep affection for both Adam and Lillian. "She's been so strong," Adam murmured, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "But I've never felt so helpless." "Women are tougher than we'll ever be," Jake observed. "My Eliza brought 4 into the world before the fever took her, said it was worth every pain." Before Adam could respond, a new sound pierced the air, the indignant wail of a newborn. He froze, coffee forgotten, as the cry grew stronger. The bedroom door opened, and Dr. Peterson emerged, his tired face breaking into a smile. "Congratulations, Ironwood. You have a son, a strong, healthy boy." Adam's legs nearly buckled with relief. "And Lillian. Exhausted but well. She's asking for you." Adam entered the bedroom on unsteady feet. Lillian lay propped against pillows, her face pale with exhaustion but radiant with joy. In her arms, wrapped in a soft blanket, was a tiny bundle with a shock of dark hair. "Come meet your son," she whispered as Adam approached, awe and reverence in every step. He sat carefully on the edge of the bed, his eyes fixed on the small, perfect face. "He's beautiful," Adam breathed, gently touching a tiny hand that immediately curled around his finger with surprising strength. "Just like his mother." "I was thinking we might call him Thomas," Lillian suggested, "after my father." "Thomas Ironwood," Adam tested the name. "A good, strong name for our boy." As he looked from his son to his wife, Adam was overwhelmed by a surge of love so powerful it nearly took his breath. "Thank you," he whispered, pressing his forehead to Lillian's. "For our son. For our life together." Lillian smiled, tired but content. "Worth every moment of pain," she assured him, echoing Jake's words about his long-departed Eliza. "Even worth facing down Butch Kendall." Adam laughed softly. "Our boy comes from brave stock. With a mother who can face down outlaws and a father too stubborn to die, he'll be a force to reckon with." "I hope he has your heart," Lillian said, stroking the baby's cheek. "Your courage and your kindness. And your intelligence," Adam added. "Your strength and determination." Outside, the life of the ranch continued, cattle lowing in distant pastures, horses stamping in the corral, ranch hands going about their daily tasks. Inside, a new chapter was beginning for the family that had been forged in danger but built on love. As the afternoon waned into evening, Adam settled into the chair beside the bed, prepared to keep vigil through the night. Lillian drifted to sleep, the baby nestled safely in the cradle Adam had crafted with his own hands. And as darkness fell across the Colorado foothills, Adam Ironwood watched over his family, grateful beyond words for the twist of fate that had brought a Boston schoolteacher into his life and his heart. The cowboy who had once stayed beside her bed until the sun rose, his eyes red from fear, now kept watch with eyes filled only with love and the promise of a future brighter than either of them could have imagined in those dark hours that had first brought them together.